Welcome to the How to Podcast series. My name is Dave. Happy to have you here. Let's get into the conversation today around podcasting. Let's help you start your show and grow your podcast. Everybody, welcome back to the How to Podcast series, where we get to meet great podcasters and follow their journey. And if you love money, or if you hate money, you need to go check out Money Ripples, because Chris is here. He's got a great podcast, and he really helps you to unpack and figure out how to make money work for you. Money Ripples podcast with Chris Miles. And what I like about it, this whole thing keeps coming up over and over and over every time I listen, about your work optional type approach to life. And I'm like, I like those two words together. Those are two good words. And I like that idea. And for me, I'm a real estate investor. So as I listen to his show, I'm learning a lot. And we're going to talk to Chris about his journey as a podcaster and more about money and the ripples in our life. Chris, hey, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, same here, Dave. I'm excited to be here too.
Excellent. Chris, where are you in this big world of ours? Where do you live?
I live in Utah, out in the United States.
There you go. Okay. The idea for Money Ripples podcast, and it's all tied into what you do and who you serve, but how long has the podcast been going for now, Chris?
This one, this one's been going for 11 years now. It's just over 11 years. Going almost 11 and a half years at this point. But yeah, 11 years and almost 1,000 episodes in.
Do you know when you're going to hit 1,000 episodes? How much longer do you think?
It's going to be, I'm guessing it's going to be right about November is my guess. November of 2025. So, yeah, you asked me before we got on the air, what am I going to do for that episode? I'm like, I don't know. I just been pumping out episodes, and I'm like, I'll get there. Once I hit like 990, I'm going to start freaking out and be like, I got to plan something, right?
So that's a big number. I don't know a lot of podcasts that get to that 4-digit number. That's a whole different world. That's amazing.
Well, if you get to 100, that's a pretty big deal, right?
I
mean,
right?
Especially in this world. So, no, I mean, I'm very grateful for it, and it's just something I love. It's like my passion project that I've been doing for years, and this is not even my first one. I had another one prior to that I did from late 2008 until 2012 called Fire Your Financial Advisor. Doesn't exist anymore. It's all gone. But I did that one for 4 years, mainly because I was doing AM talk radio beforehand for like a year prior to that. And I had so much fun, even though I was just absolutely mortified, nervous the first time I got on the air with the main host. I was just the co-host. He was doing most of the yapping, right? But I was so nervous. I was only feeling fortunate that I was on a holiday. I was hoping that not many people were listening, right? But eventually he said, hey, why don't you take it over? I'm busy with other stuff. And so I started doing it and really enjoying it. The difference though is, of course, you have those 7-minute segments. So right when you're starting to get on a roll, all of a sudden it's like, oh, we got to cut to a commercial break. Let's move. And so in 2008, one of my friends came to me. He's like, hey, there's this new thing called podcasts that you should do. I'm like, what's a podcast? He's like, it's basically like radio online. He's like, but there's no interruptions, or it doesn't have to be if you don't want it to be. I said, well, that sounds great. And the whole reason I even started in the first place is because I just wanted something to leave behind for my kids in case I died young. Some of the previous partners I had, they actually had passed away when they were about mid-30s. And in 2008, I was in my early 30s. And I thought, well, wait, my kids are young. What if I die before I can teach all the stuff I've learned about money, even the bad stuff? Because I was going through a lot of hard times during that time. I was broke during that period of time. So I was like, I got to get it out there. But I also use it as a tool for those frequently asked questions from clients or should be asked questions, right? And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to just create this. So then if even a client asks me a question, I can say, go listen to this 20-minute, episode, and then we'll come back and talk and I'll clarify on it. So then it would just save my breath. And that's kind of how I started podcasting in the first place.
It's nice because then they can go do their homework and they can come with knowledge, and then you can start from that spot. You're not educating people on the same thing over and over and over, right? The podcast works for you then. That's cool.
Exactly.
How do you view your podcast as it relates to the rest of the things you do? Is it kind of like a marketing arm for your business? Like, how does it all fit into the big picture?
Yeah, it became more that way later on for me. At first, even when because in 2012, I stopped the previous podcast, and then I took a break. I was launching Money Ripples in 2012, and so I was focused on that. And then I remember I got on a show called Entrepreneurs on Fire with John Lee
Oh,
Dumas.
oh, I never heard of it. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's an amazing show. Oh, that's great.
The crazy thing is, I tried to get on for a year, couldn't get on, but I had a friend, or we had a mutual friend really, that reached out to me saying, "Hey, John wants to do a book. Wants you, we're looking for contributors to this book. If you promise to buy, I think it was like 200 books, which was like $2,000, something like that, you'll basically be in the book. And by the way, Tim Ferriss is writing the first chapter."
Oh,
And I thought, well, that'd be cool, just to be a co-author with Tim Ferriss and John Lee Dumas. And I remember after I got done doing my audio interview, they would transcribe it and make it the chapter, and we would just edit it and do stuff. After I was done, uh, he asked me, he's like, "Well, what else can I do for you?" This is my friend, right? And I said, I would love to get on John's show. Done. I'll text him right now. Half hour later, I get an email from John saying, "Yeah, let's do it. Here's the link." You know, and I got on this show and did that episode. And I just drove him to my website. That's all I had done.
yeah,
But even before I did that, I had so much fun with it. I was like, man, this was really cool. Like, I really like doing podcasts, and I kind of missed it for myself. And of course, the episode released, spiked our numbers on our website because it drove hundreds and hundreds of people to it. And then afterwards, I'm talking with a friend. We're having lunch. This is on a Friday, and I said, "Man, I really like doing podcasts. Maybe I should do one." He's like, "Why not? Do it." I'm like, "You're right, I should." And so the following Tuesday, I just did a simple like
yeah,
blogtalkradio.com, right?
yeah,
Went
yeah.
there, didn't know how to use it. So I literally just did the live function. I hit the button, hit record, and record it live. And that was it. 3 days later, I had my first episode. Horrible, horrible sound quality. I called in from my phone. I didn't realize I could pre-record like on something like this and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
upload it.
right,
So I was calling on a phone. It sounded like literally I was calling in as a caller on AM radio, so it was horrible quality for those first few episodes, but I did it. I got it out. It was, done is better than perfect, as they say, right? And
right.
that's pretty much what it was. It was done and it was out, and the rest is history since 2014.
It's interesting. Right now, I'm dealing with some podcasters who've reached out for help. And when I get down and start talking to them, I'm like, "So where are you at in your process?" They're like, "Well, I have, I've been following these 10 gurus. I've been to conferences. I've got all these books. I've taken all these courses. I'm certified in this, and I've done all this research and study." I'm like, "How long have you been researching this?" "Oh, I've been doing this podcast research years." I'm like, "Do you have a podcast yet?" They're like, "No, no, no. I really want to know everything about podcasting before I start." Right. I'm just so excited to learn. And I'm
Mm,
like, you're going to learn even more when you start. Like when you
yeah,
start recording and getting out there, some things you're not going to be able to read or understand in a book. You're going to have to learn it. And they're like,
yeah,
"Well," and I find people are kind of getting trapped in this cycle of learning where they're just constantly learning, but they're never doing. I was reading
yeah,
Pat Flynn's new book, Lean Learning, and he talks about just-in-time learning. So learn what you need to know to act. And then when you hit a wall, learn about that, fix that, and then continue working. But don't spend all your time learning and never acting. And I'm like, I
that's
love
right.
that approach, right? So,
Yeah.
Chris, if there's somebody listening to this and unlike you, they've never thought of just doing it. They want to learn more.
Mhm.
Any kind of gentle nudge for them to go beyond the learning stage and get into the action stage like what you did?
There's, in my opinion, there's no better than experience, right? And I think there's some value in trying to educate and learn and get some of those good tips. It might be valuable to hire someone to help you launch a podcast, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's absolutely a great way to shortcut it and do it that way. So if you're one of those people you find yourself kind of constantly learning, I would recommend hiring somebody to help you launch a podcast. If you're worried about doing it quote unquote right, which
yeah,
none of us ever do it perfectly right,
right.
but if you were trying to launch it in the right way, get those quick, fast numbers to give really more credibility to the show, and that's something I didn't do. I did it very organically. I built it up over time. But if you want to do it fast, hire someone who knows how to do that, and someone who's been there, done that, and still doing it today, right? They're doing it their own shows. They helped other shows do it too. I
Yeah,
think that's what's really important. And so that's what I'd recommend is look for somebody to help you get out of that. Or if you just don't want to hire somebody, just do it. Just
yeah,
literally play around with it. Worst case scenario, like, hey, that podcast was okay. I'll launch a new one, from what I learned now. You could always do
Right.
that. I'm not going to at this stage, although I've been tempted a few times. I've had a few friends that, created bigger podcasts the second go around, once they knew how to do the algorithms and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But, I just think for me, experience is the best teacher, and that's where I learn the fastest.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So what about, let's lean a little on your financial side a little bit.
Mm.
What about the fact that in podcasting over time, you gain equity with your audience, your
Oh
connections
my
with your
goodness. Yeah.
audience, right? You build it, it grows in the background while you keep showing up for your audience. Almost 1,000 episodes from you. Like the connection with your audience grows over time, but you can't get to episode 1,000 without episode one. So you do
Yeah.
have to do that. You got to do the work, right? Talk about the
Mhm.
equity that you're building with your show.
It's true. And you even asked me about using it as a marketing tool. At first, it wasn't the case, right? It was just like, hey, let's get it out there. But I mean, really, it's one of the best lead nurturing tools out there. Because the problem is, many people, when they're trying to, build their brand or whatever it might be, when you're trying to build the brand, you're trying to build your marketing and your arms and funnels and everything else. The truth is, if you get people to your show, uh, I mean, they're going to decide whether they like you or not. And I think that's the best thing ever. I mean, how hard is it if you were just to try to drive people to you and try to do, let's say you're trying to do a bunch of sales calls, whatever it might be, right? Well, the problem is that if those people don't really know who you are, they probably won't be the right client for you in many, many cases. And so you're going to be going through a lot of people trying to find the right ones. But with a podcast, they're already sold on you. They feel like they know you better than you know them, which is true. They know you because they've been listening to you. And I'll tell you this, like for the first 50 plus episodes, I was only doing maybe one a week in the beginning. For those first year or so, I didn't think anybody was listening. I remember I went to a conference for a specific company. It was like a huge conference, 18,000 people. And I remember I was out in the hall and I was actually debating that morning about quitting my Money Ripples podcast because I was just like, what? I feel like I'm putting all this effort in. Is anybody really listening? It may even notice if I disappeared. Honestly, that's what I felt. And I remember I was out in the hall and I saw this guy looking at me and, kind of uncomfortably, I was like, I don't know if he was hitting on me or what, but it looked like he was with a group of people. And he just kept looking over. And finally, he started walking towards me. He says, "Are you Chris Miles?" Yeah. It's like, oh my gosh, we listen to your podcast. Like, not just me, our whole team listen to your podcast. We love you. I'm like, how'd you even hear about it? He said, "Oh, well, our trainer, like she told us about it." I'm like, "Who's your trainer?" And it was one of my clients. And so their whole team was listening to the podcast, and they all came over. They're like, "Hey, can we take a picture?" Which was really kind of weird. I still get uncomfortable when I get attention from time to time, but I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And I said, I'm grateful you guys came up because honestly, I was debating about quitting the podcast just this morning, and they're all like, "Don't." Like, we're
Wow.
listening. We're not ready for you because they're already screening themselves out because they already know they're not quite qualified as a client for me. They're like, "We're not quite ready for you, but what you're doing helps. Like, just keep doing it." And that just gave me a little bit more faith to keep going. And I'll tell you, like, I've had some people say, "Hey, I've been listening to you for years, and I finally feel like it's the time to reach out."
Wow.
What's nice is that now, especially with SEO and AI even starts recommending us now and stuff too. And so as a result, we get people coming in brand new eyeballs coming in. And here's the secret I learned about getting my podcast bigger with more followers organically is it was something I learned during that same period of time early on. People would reach out. They're like, "Hey, I don't know what you're selling, but I want to buy it." They're like, I don't, because I wasn't really even promoting my business on the show. I was just teaching financial stuff, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't even doing that. And not until about 2016 or so, I finally it's like, oh, maybe I should put a call to action to actually follow my website,
Wow.
Um, because I was just like, hey, cool, I'm done. Next episode, just listen to the next one, right? That's what I was doing before. Horrible strategy. But anyways, but it was interesting because people would reach out like, "I don't know what you do, but I want to hire you." And I realized that everybody has their own unique thing. Some people, they're more charismatic. They need to be face to face or like on video or on stage and things like that. Some people, it's more their voice they trust. And that's what people kept saying with me because my first 5, 6 years from 2014 until the beginning of 2020 was all just audio episodes. I did no video because
Mm.
I was doing it all myself. and I was using my GarageBand, and it was easy to go clip. And I always do one take episodes. I very
Yeah.
rarely have to cut them up. The
Yeah.
worst one was when I had a guy that stuttered. That was
Yeah.
the worst episode I ever
Yeah.
edited. Man, that one
Yeah.
took me an hour or two.
Yeah.
But and that was like a 20-minute episode too.
Wow.
But usually I just go clip, and I'm done. I like from recording to launching, it was like 45 minutes, right? Um, but uh, but eventually I realized it's my voice. That's what gets people. Some people's writing, like they're just better writers. There's always those authors that you hear them on stage, you get disappointed. But if you see their
Yeah.
books, you
Right.
love them, right?
Yeah.
Same thing. Like you got to find what your superpower is between those three things. Is it content creative? Is it audio, or is it more charismatic or visual?
Okay.
And that's where I went with the audio because people kept trusting my voice. And I decided, well, if that worked there, what if I went on other people's podcasts and promoted my podcast?
Right.
So I went to John Lee Dumas again. I said, hey, I want to get on your podcast again. He says, fine, buy $600 of my journals and I'll do it. And so I did buy $600 of journals because, by the way, I made about 30 or 40,000 from that first episode. The second episode, this was in, I think, 2016, 2017, somewhere around there. Instead of driving to my website, I drove people to my podcast because I figured if you already listen to podcasts, why not just listen to mine too? And I spiked the numbers right off the bat.
Right.
But what's crazy is 4 months later, after doing that episode with John, I had a guy reach out saying, hey, I want to get you on my show. Let's get you to talk on my show. I'm a real estate investor. That's what we talk about. I also do real estate investing. I talk a lot about that on my show and passive income and stuff.
Right.
And got on his show. And I remember even towards the end of the show, I teased about a specific strategy. And he's like, okay, we're out of time, but I need to bring you back for an encore episode to talk about that strategy. And so we did. We did that talked about that strategy solely on that episode. The guy loved it so much, he became a client, made a lot of money from that. Then he referred me to another guy who also had a podcast that had like doctors, not a huge following, but a very high net worth type of following.
Yeah.
And then that guy became a client. And then he started referring people literally from that one episode with John. That second time I was on a show, not the first, but the second time, I've made well over $2 million
Oh,
from
come
that
on.
one episode that led just to one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, and beyond, because I still get clients from those people. So it's probably closer to like 2.5 to 3 million by this point. And so that was the power. Like it's so cool. Like we can build it organically. That's why I love going on shows like this. Plus, I love teaching anyways. It's so much fun. I would do this. This would be what I'd be doing as my part-time job because I would never want to be full-time. But
Yeah.
my part-time job is like really just doing this. It's like teaching, doing my own episodes, and just creating that ripple effect through people's lives. And that's why I do what I do. And that's been kind of my secret for helping build my podcast without spending a dime. Is really going on to people's shows. And I use different. I do pay some groups to help get me on shows. I've used Podmatch. So I
Yeah.
meet a lot of people through there.
Yeah.
Obviously, I get reached out to all the time. That's how I get guests too. If it's not from my own personal connections, I get guests just because I get reached out to probably about 5 times a day.
Wow.
So I never have a shortage of people. I usually don't even respond to most guest requests at this point.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. I love your show, and I got you get the ripple in there, which is good. I like that you use the ripple. That's nice to hear that because it ties into the show.
Yep.
One thing I love about your show, Chris, when I listen, there's an audio version, and then I can
Mhm.
go on YouTube and I see the video version. What I
Yeah.
like about what you do in your video version, and everyone's got to go check it out. I have a link for you to go check it out. Is you have the talking head. It's kind of what we do, but you blend in like some B-roll as well,
Yeah.
which just kind of breaks it up a little bit. And
Hmm.
that's very interesting. Did you do B-roll little inserts like that from the beginning for your video, or was that
Oh,
relatively new
definitely
for you?
not.
Okay.
Oh no, if you could go back and see some of my earlier episodes from like 2020, you're like, oh, that's kind of cheesy. You know?
Okay.
um, and even like the lighting, like seriously,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
this I have like two different colored lights, and
yeah,
actually I can change the colors. They're the same lights. I
yeah.
have different lights. I have my main light I have from the left side because for whatever reason it makes it look more masculine or something, I guess. But I also open up my windows in front of me, so that brings a little extra light too. But
Yeah.
I mean, like, I spent like $10,000 on this thing, but that wasn't day one, right? I mean, it was just literally like a white wall. This is just a white wall with a sliding closet door that's brown, and it just happened to look cool. So we actually changed my office 90 degrees. It used to be just a plain white wall with that kind of pattern you see back here.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, then we switched that. But no, the B-roll, I mean, I do have a marketing team. So I have a video editor. We hired her from Venezuela through a VA company,
yeah.
that we have her on full time. She produces all that. And then it was just in the last year we actually started start doing more B-roll because for the same reason you said, to kind of break it
Yeah.
up, right? Because we'll watch other episodes. We'll watch like Diary of a CEO, right? That's another
Right.
one on my little wish list. I would like to get on. I would love to be
Oh,
on that one with Steven. But
yeah.
Diary of a CEO, I mean, they have such great stuff. Even like his hooks, like
Yeah.
how you hook you in the episode. We're not quite to that level. Like I just do a quick little 10 to 15-second hook to get people in the episode, and then I
Yeah.
do the intro, and then I jump in the episode, right? But I can see that's kind of like the next place to go is like, hey, maybe we could pull out some of the coolest parts of the podcast, episode or
Yeah.
whatever, and put that into the intro B-roll type thing you have to kind of get people in. So we're always watching in this scene like what I think is cool, at least, what I think I would like to do. And then can you do that? And we keep pushing her limits to see what she can do. And that's really how we do it. So yeah, B-roll is just a very recent development, but I like it too.
Yeah. Well, please pass on from me as a viewer and follower of the show that she's doing a great job and I really enjoy those and she's doing spectacular. So whatever she's doing, just keep doing that because it's really working. So let her
Well, I
know.
guarantee
That'd be
she'll
great.
watch this because when you share the episode with me, we always like try to take clips from it and stuff. So
Good.
she's gonna hear that and say, "Yes, I did
Yes.
it."
All right. Yes. And a raise for her. I don't know. I'm just putting that in there. Yeah. No, it's good. She's doing really, really good. I love it, Chris. Um, so the one thing I get from podcasters quite often when we talk audio video is audio seems to be where many people start. Video is
Mhm.
becoming more and more relevant in our world as podcasters. Some people pushing back on video because of the time effort. If you don't have a
Mm.
team, it's very difficult to do video editing. You're doing it very well through your team, which is awesome. Um, how are you seeing your return on a video version of your podcast in comparison to audio? Is audio outperforming video for you currently? Without giving away the farm, I don't want to know numbers, but from your perspective, what are you seeing as far as your best return on investment using financial terms for your time and effort and for your team? What are you seeing?
That's a good question. I mean, it's hard to tell sometimes where people come. I mean, sometimes people come from YouTube, which is great. And we get a specific arm of our business, mostly from YouTube, not always from the podcast, but from the other videos I do produce in between those podcasts. We also have a lot of shorts that we produce too.
Right.
So I definitely say on the video side, we put a lot more money and effort into that on the video side. However, we also do produce a lot of income from it too, a lot of revenue in our business from that. So it's kind of hard to measure which one's better. But I'll tell you, I mean, if you're making the excuse that you can't do a podcast because it seems too complex, do what I did and just start doing the audio. Something very simple, right? I mean, you don't have to turn on the camera, you don't have to have a studio, right? Again, like I only brought in all these cameras, like the nicer 40, whatever you call them, 4K cameras and
Yeah.
lighting. I only brought that in the last 2 to 3 years, and I've
Right.
been doing this 11 years.
Right.
So it's not like you have to do it all at once. It's kind of like a video game, like you start at level one,
Yeah.
you're like
Yeah.
Zelda, you have the wooden sword, and eventually you upgrade to like the silver one, finally get the
Yeah.
diamond or whatever. I don't know how it goes
Yeah.
anymore,
Yeah.
but you know what it is. Like you always up level along the way. You never start out just like with the perfect, armor and the perfect weapon
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. You upgrade along the way. And so if you have to start with audio, I mean, audio is great. The reason I started doing video is because I did realize that there's a lot of people that are visual learners. Like they
Right.
just feel like they have to see things versus just listening to podcasts. And so I figured, well, if I'm already putting the effort, I think I would do on camera anyways, why not create multi-purpose, right? So you have the visual, you have the audio, just get it done all at once and just use it. So we literally just take the audio from the video and that's what we use for
Yeah.
audio now versus just recording an audio.
Okay. All right. Um, so for your podcast then, with like 1,000 episodes coming up,
Mhm.
where do you go after 1,000 episodes? Just keep plugging along? Do you have like a longer term vision for the show?
Yeah, after episode 1000, it's 1001, I guess, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, this is like I said, like even when I was able to retire the second time, as I talk about my story, right? Like we had
Yeah.
enough passive income, I didn't have to keep working my business anymore. I did that in 2016. I still kept doing this, like this is something I just love doing. Now, will the show evolve and change? I think so. Like I've debated as well. Like I've noticed a lot more of my friends are starting to do live in studio interviews.
Yeah.
I've never done that. I'm one of those guys. I love the fact I'm just doing this out of my house.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
I have my little room. hopefully a dog doesn't bark when I'm doing it, and I'm just
Yeah.
doing my thing. So I mean, I foresee in the future we'll probably have something where we will, have more like a live in studio type thing, like you're seeing in some of these episodes, the more of the bigger podcasts nowadays, um, and maybe more of a team, maybe even a built out office for it rather than use my house,
Yeah.
you know. So I mean, I see that could be evolving, but for right now, it's just keep plugging along and keep just trying to help teach and liberate people to create a ripple effect of freedom and prosperity. That's the main thing. And so now I'm not planning on quitting anytime soon.
Do you release your video anywhere else in addition to YouTube, or is that primarily where all your video assets go?
It's a good question. I think it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we have, of course, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I know it gets uploaded different things. I know we have a group that reached out to us saying, "Hey, we want to take your podcast and transcribe them and do SEO type stuff and post them as like articles," and which we do on our own website, but they want to do on their site too. I'm like, "Hey, more backlinks, the better." So,
Wow.
but yeah, video wise, I'm not sure if we do anything beyond YouTube. I mean, that's where we primarily upload everything.
Okay.
So I think that's the main location.
Yeah, because I know Spotify has you video now as well. I've
Oh,
tinkered with
right.
it with a couple episodes here and there. You have to upload to them directly. It's not through a RSS feed like we would with audio. But yeah,
Good
I just
question. We might be
wondering.
doing that.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe there you go. Maybe. I just wonder like where else your video lives because primarily people go YouTube first with their video,
Mm,
which is fine.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm just watching like retention rates and all that on YouTube. But I think that the best thing about being on YouTube is the searchability that people can
Mm,
find you and stumble across you, and you're recommended by other channels and things as well. So you're not going to get any traction if you're not there at all. So
that's
being
right.
there is probably the first point. And then what you want to do with that and how you grow that, but at least you're there. So I think that's wise anyway.
Like, well, with YouTube and Google already being pretty much hand in hand, right? I mean, that's one of the best things to do if you want people to find you, if they're searching and things like that. And by the way, one thing I've been doing a lot more lately the last few months is I've been using Chat GPT and AI a lot more.
Yeah.
Um, Not so much for like scripting myself because I can't do that. I can't be scripted. In fact, I'm worse when I get scripted than I am just going off the cuff.
Right.
Um, like it's funny. I remember doing a movie. We literally spent $75,000, got a Hollywood director to do a movie for us for like his 20-minute documentary, and they wanted me to script certain parts and walk at the same time. It took me
No.
forever. I was like, how do people do this? This is so hard. Like, I was like, can I just talk? Like I can do that and like be done in seconds.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like any case, but yeah, like that definitely with YouTube. I mean, YouTube is great. Like YouTube really does help with the algorithm and everything using AI. Like I'll actually ask them, like, listen, I want like curiosity driven titles. I want to make sure it's also good with SEO. So like people, if they're searching, they'll find it.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, if I'm using AI to do that, of course, when people use AI to search things, guess what? AI also recommends us, right? And I have somebody like send me a screenshot of a Grok, which I've never used Grok, but they were asking like, who are the best, for like talking about like something like generational wealth, which is not a huge topic in our podcast. We talk about it sometimes, but there we are. We show right up as Money Ripples is like one of the top searches or results for that. I was like, that's crazy, but again, using that kind of thing to help me craft a better title that's not so vanilla,
Yeah.
right? It's awesome.
I've been using Perplexity and I went on Perplexity and I just did the simple prompt. Tell me about the How to Podcast series hosted by Dave Campbell from Canada. That was my prompt. That's it. I didn't put
Yeah,
any like other constraints on it. Very simple. It came back with a whole page about my show. It was listing out keyword after keyword, how many
yeah,
episodes I had, kind of the main format of the show and all the different things I do on my show. And I'm just reading this going, if that's what the internet thinks of me, then I'm in the right spot, right? And I didn't even
yeah,
know what it was going to bring back for me. And it knew so much and it was really accurate. And I'm like, do that for your show, whatever platform you're using for an AI tool. Just ask it the simple question to ask me, tell me about my show. And what do you know about
yeah,
me? It's very interesting what comes back to you because you'll know if you're on the right path. And then maybe do the same thing for a show that's like yours that you admire that talks about the same thing you do and compare their
yeah.
result to your result. And when you
That's right.
mash up the two, you're like, well, here's the gaps that I'm noticing. They do this and I do that. Maybe I should do a
Yeah.
little bit more of this, right? And a little less of that, whatever. But it's kind of a nice way to kind of do a comparison as well.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good point too. Because one of the things people ask me, like how do you convert sales or things from that too? I remember things changed for me when I stopped trying to talk to a general audience and I talked to just one person.
Mm,
And I would hyper focus on my target client, right? Like the
right.
person that was just like, and in fact, I would image in my mind like my favorite client or two that I was working with, and I would just talk to them.
Yeah.
And what was crazy is those people would be the ones that would show up. Those would be the type of people that would start reaching out. And I'm like, you're like my perfect client. I can't believe this. Like, you guys are incredible. And it's because I was talking to them. And same thing when you're using chat prompts and things like that. Like, I put in, we worked with a marketing guy to help really clarify like who is our target audience? Like, who is the person we're really talking to? Even to where we created a fake profile, right? Like, the guy has a name and everything. He's 42
Yeah.
years old. This is like his fears, like are this, and like really get into the psychological nature of him, not just basic demographics, right? And what are the things they're looking for and wanting. And so even when I do prompts, even when I'm doing episodes, I'm like, hey, I'm specifically talking to this kind of person for this episode. What would hook them? Like
Hmm.
if we're talking to them, and they'll give you great ideas. And then as you craft it and you start to perfect it, and they save all that information that you've given it before, and you've fed it
Right.
all that data, it makes it so much easier to come out with some really good stuff. And so, and like I
Excellent.
said, I've only been testing this for the last few months, but it's been working.
Excellent. Yeah, Chris, I could talk to you all day. I know you got stuff to do. You got money to make and podcasts to create and all that. So I want to honor your time too, and I really appreciate the fact that you make time to come and chat with us. It's amazing. I do love your show. Can we talk a little bit about your calculator? I was playing with this on your website,
Yeah.
on moneyripples.com. Can you tell us what does this calculator do? Because I'm really curious how this thing
Yeah.
works.
Yeah. So what it is a passive income calculator, right? So many people will be like, okay, I've been pumping, saving money in this or that or the other, but I don't have any passive income, right? They're like our typical client are people that have been good savers, but then they're like, yeah, but so what? Who cares if I have a net worth of over $1 million if it doesn't pay me anything?
Right.
And so that's what we do is we help people figure out how to get your money working harder for you so you don't have to work so hard for that money. And so we actually have a calculator that says, all right, put in these basic questions. It's anonymous. It's not like we share information with people or anything like that. But
Yeah.
we're asking like, hey, do you have equity in your home? Do you have savings sitting around? Do you have old retirement plans? Maybe the ones that aren't locked up with a company that you can't access, right? Do you have money in in other real estate properties? And or how much you make in there versus how much equity you have in those properties? And it's actually my formula that I had in my brain that I used to do myself. I just put into a calculator so that when people put in those numbers, as long as they put in accurately, it'll spit out here's how much passive income you could be creating in the next 12 months.
Mm,
So, like, for example, somebody asked me, they're like, hey, like they're putting the numbers in the calculator, they got $35,000. I'm like, that means after 12 months working with us, they should have about 35,000 or about 3,000 a month of passive income coming in on average,
well.
um, so that kind of thing, right? And I've had some people in the hundreds of thousands. I had some people show up in the millions recently. I'm like, did they fill that out right? Did they really have? Because usually you have to have like, if it's in the millions, it usually means you have tens of millions, like
Yeah.
$10 million or whatever to have $1 million result. But
Yeah.
sometimes, it could be true. I had one guy that actually legitimately did confirm, and he was a friend of mine, $800,000, and he's actually
Wow.
starting to fulfill on that now. And spending 10 plus hours a week because his advisor that he had, the guy he hired, almost like his family office, they're saying, hey, look at these deals or these deals. And he was doing all the work himself. And we're like, no, we already have a whole network of people that we've vetted over the years. You know, look at these people. And by the way, with your strategy, you probably want to ignore these people, but look at these ones. And he's just like gangbusters. I was like pumping it out, and he's just like, dude, you guys are like Olympic level. He's like, this has saved me so much time of my life, that I was doing before with this crappy advisor I had. Although he still likes the advisor to some level as a friend, but he's like, dude, like I can make so much more money passively. So that's what the calculator does. It just tries to give you a pretty good number. It could be a little bit more or less depending on what your results are, but it's pretty accurate.
Before I let you go, Chris, who is the ideal person that you would love to work with?
It's the person that says, I've been doing everything right, but it doesn't feel like it's working.
Okay.
I need to do something more. I want my money to work harder for me. I want to have time freedom ultimately. I want to have enough money so that I'm work optional. I work because I want to, not because I have to.
Yeah.
maybe I love my work, but I want to do something more. Maybe I love my business, but I want to do something more, have more freedom. I want to take off that month or two because I want to go hike the Camino de Santiago or something like that. One of my bucket list items,
There you
or
go.
I want to do this, or I want to go do volunteer work, whatever. Like I want to do more than just, work, work my tail off for the rest of my life. I want that time freedom because I have that financial freedom. Those are the people that love our show, that follow our show and reach out to us.
Excellent. Well, I know you probably got a call or an email from Stephen Bartlett, so you need to get to that because he wants you on his show. So thank you so much, Chris, for doing this, for being part of this. I really appreciate it. And again, everyone, moneyripples.com is the website. Go check out the podcast as well. Everything's there on the website, link in the show notes. Some really great guests on your show, really entertaining as well. I love how you do your interviews and everything. And again, go watch the video. You'll see the B-rolls we're talking about in the recent episodes. They're really great. Chris, thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate you taking time.
I really appreciate it, Dave. Thanks.
Excellent. Thanks for checking out the video version of the How to Podcast series. You can always hear us everywhere. howtopodcast.ca. Come check us out. I'd love to talk to you soon.